is we also have someone who's going to be catering to your needs on that. But this one Wednesday, at least, as long as I'm here, you will be hearing me and whatever it is that needs to be discussed along the vein. And right now, there's a whole lot on our plates. I tell you, we seem as a Caribbean region to be in some dire straits, and I put that at the feet of two sets of people. One at the feet of our leaders for not being in a position to lead us the way we would want them to, and two, the people for not being concerned enough to keep our leaders' feet to the fire. Okay? Never ease the pressure on your leaders. I mean, yeah, you can be sympathetic to your leaders, but that sympathy should never go to the extent where you give them a free rein where they just do as they feel. No, that should never be the case. So, right now, we know that there should be a heads of government, regional government, CARICOM, coming up. And people have been saying that is going to be very interesting. And it seems to be getting even more interesting by the minute, by the hour, by the days. You understand? Hello, caller.
Clint,
Yes.
I'm going to check out that Marco Rubio speech in Europe. I mean, I wasn't aware of it, but yeah, I did check it out on YouTube, but I listened to it at a later date.
Yeah.
But Clint, tell me, I just came across a clip in social media that a fishing boat was intercepted by the U.S. military in St. Vincent, and 3 fishermen had died. Are you aware of this?
The word is not intercepted because intercepted would mean that they were stopped also. I mean, from what I'm hearing, it was blown up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I heard that. Yes.
You see it now, and it's interesting that our CARICOM heads are going to meet later this month, and it will be interesting to see what stand our Prime Minister as the chair for CARICOM going to take on all this, because these are serious times, and it is almost like the fear that is being struck coming from America and Europe. It's almost like for me, it's like colonization all over again.
That is what it sounds like. That is what it feels like. And what they say, if it sounds like, feel like, look like, it is.
It is. Yeah, and you see, now, the thing is this, Quinn, for me, it's like what they're telling us. They're testing the waters to see how we're going to respond. I mean, yes, and it's not just the Caribbean. It is happening on the continent. Tucker Carlson interviewing the president of Zimbabwe, Botswana, and I think was Ivory Coast, and asked them what they feel, how they feel about what was done in Venezuela. You see, they're testing their parameters again by doing this here and that there. And here we are, Quint. Our politicians, are they in fear? Do they recognize what is at stake? Because you see, it is, and this is why I say, Quint, it is a war, whether it is physical or spiritual. They're bringing it to us. It is either us or them. And what they're doing now is just them trying to tell us, well, hey, listen, we're going to continue. Quint, the time is up, Make no mistake about it. It's going to linger. It's going to linger on because this is their world. This is their world. That's why this morning I said, let us look at the world as nature intended it. We are supposed to be free. We're supposed to be at liberty to move here, there. But what they created, this their world, by putting border. And we need to also appreciate certain aspect of what they're doing. What do I mean by this, Quint? We want to have a visa to go to America. We want to get a visa to go to Europe. But Africa is the future, Quint, because they are not leaving Africa. Their intent is to keep Africa the way Africa is so that they can continue to exploit what belongs to us, Quint.
But intent and the ability to do so are two different things. And I don't think they understand. They know what they intend to do. They know what they want to do. But I don't think they understand the kind of world we're living in, and that we know our history. And the more we realize that you're trying to push us back into that, is the more resistance they're going to get. And a lot of people who are comfortable know, when they realize what is really being pushed on them, they're going to also react. Just give it time.
Well, you see, now, Quint, I am saying, and I have been saying, apart from us uniting, Quint, we have to become knowledgeable. Because, you see, we know that those who were before us, I'm referring to our ancestors, Quint, their civilization was their striving. Europe and America have no civilization. There's nothing civil about what they have done and what they are doing. They are of death. They are against life. They are against the planet. Look at their footprint, and this is what I'm saying to our people.
And
we need to come together.
And when you listen to Marco Rubio's speech, that is another thing he kept going back to. He's saying, don't care about the planet, prosperity and capitalism. That's where we should be putting our trust. So they intend to wreak more havoc.
But here's where you see that's why I have to quote the text, Quint, because you see, in terms of prosperity.
But don't use that as a justification. What I'm saying, I don't have a problem with you quoting the text, but use real happenings, things now, also aligned with the text to buttress your point. That's all I'm saying.
That's true. But here's the Quint. Remember, right? Now, for me, and I'm not the only one, Quint, there are those before me. There's a Professor James Small in New York. They have created generational wealth here on earth, Quint, for their generation unborn. But look at where they tell us to get our generational wealth. We must lay our treasures up in heaven, where thieves and rough cannot enter. When there, they are exploiting our wealth. You see, this is what I'm trying to enlighten our people to. We must live on earth to die to go to heaven, and lay our treasures up in heaven, while they create theirs on earth by exploiting what is ours. And we swallow that misery wholesale. We Africans have swallowed their misery wholesale.
But here is what I'm saying, Journey, and I want you to get it firm in your head. You see that point you made? Okay, so they want you to store your treasures in heaven. What I'm saying is there are so many examples you can turn to presently of where they are using their wealth and their power to continue to garner wealth for themselves. For instance, even the clip I played this morning where they're saying they're going to give you medical aid, but they want to be able to get your minerals. That is an example. So that is what I'm saying. Don't just bring the biblical thing, because people complain and they say, so bring the biblical thing and link it with what is happening presently, because there are a lot of things happening presently that you can tie into your story. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Quint, but I mean, I have to speak when I am uttered to I'm guided by the inner spirit, But yeah, I got your point, and yes, we have to start to look at things, and like I said, we have to create our own edifice and our own narrative. Now, Ursula von der Leyen has been sending some delegation back to the Sahel region to negotiate, and they have doubled down on their words again. Because, Quint, what I want, and I'm sure you would agree with me, that what is happening in the Sahel region in Africa That's the model for Africa to become a powerhouse. And our politicians in the Caribbean, in the diaspora, even on the continent, they're not linking with it. This is what I find so staggering, Quint, that here we are facing our reality today with America coming into our backyard and doing things in Venezuela, in Nigeria, and planting more military boots after Donald Trump himself referred to the Africa as the S-hole countries. I mean, what? Anyway, Quint, I think you get my drive, and I hear what you're saying, but, let me see what others have to say about this.
Yeah, okay. Sometimes I get a bit frustrated. I get a lot, but then again, having journeyed from then till now, I think I can bear with the frustration. But one of the bigger frustrations is that you want people to understand what you. If you're telling people that 1 and 1 make 2, and you're telling your children 1 and 1 make 2, 5 and 5 make 10, 10 and 5 make 15, you're just saying it. And you don't bring examples to show them, hey, come in the classroom and show. Here's 1 apple, there's another apple. See them? Put them together, 2. So when I've been telling you that 1 and 1 make 2, this is it actually, this is you're seeing it here. And when I say 10 and 5 make 15, say I have 10 candies over there, count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you get them indulged. And this is why children learn faster when you get them indulged, rather than just peeking to them. And you say, okay, so you've counted off those 10 candies over there, and you have 5 more over here. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You count them and say, okay, so now that you've counted them and you know for sure 10 and 5 make 15, okay. There are 15 of you, each one of you have a candy. You understand the experience the West find itself in presently. But even though they find themselves in a position, they are still trying to twist and squirm their way to try to pull the wool over our eyes. That is always seemingly at the back of their minds. Hello, caller? Hello, caller.
Hey, good morning, Quint. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Good to hear from you, because you cross my mind sometimes.
Sometimes I try, but every time I try, it's busy.
Yeah.
Hey, good morning, Journey. Journey is my good friend. I keep it a journey. You got to connect this thing to things going on in the Caribbean. So when we link it, he's enthusiastic about Africa, but we don't need a part of Africa too.
Yeah.
And until we begin to realize that, whatever concern Africa.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, a lot of the countries they talk about, unless you go to the map, you have no idea where they are,
That's true.
And you hear about the Burkina Faso, where is it?
Yeah.
So unless people are able to relate, because that is one thing I was to teach.
Mm-hmm.
We learn in college. It's practical.
Mm-hmm.
You can call all the name you want. Africa has 54 countries. How many of them do we know?
Yeah.
There are things that are going on down here in relation to Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Now we could talk about that. Bringing in the Africans to replace the Cubans. It's undermining us, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You don't see so?
Not really. You enlighten me, because you're a bit wiser than me on certain things.
We have been depending on Cuba to provide us with medical.
Yes. I hear you. I agree 100. I agree.
And then the Americans say, well, the Cubans have to go.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
And
yes.
you carry that story to Africa, and they say, well, we could give you 100 nurses. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I catch you now. Yes, I hear you. Yeah, and I agree with you 100% on that.
They're undermining us.
We are also undermining our own interests.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Because if America can give scholarship, they can give one or two. One or two. We have to go by the teens, 10, 20. No, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear
And
you.
we get not only medical things, we get engineers,
Yeah.
coaches, things that help us. So we too.
But let me
I
ask
know,
you this. Let me ask you this, Miss Sylvine. How do you feel about with all that we've gotten from the Cubans for years, and when we had COVID around the world, Cubans send their doctors around the world, not just to the Caribbean. How do you feel about the Caribbean, like for instance Jamaica and these other Caribbean islands? Instead of taking a definitive stance, they're saying things like we're hearing the rumor. They're saying, well, expedite our students getting their degree so that we can pull them out of your country.
They're not going to transfer them to the American university. Because right now in America itself, some of the universities and with the black thing and so, they have removed the funding from them,
Yeah.
the federal funding. You understand?
Yeah.
So they could begin by bargaining. We would have to finish this set.
That's what I've been saying, yeah.
If you want them to come home, and when you put on all of these embargo and what on the country, you are in fact impacting our own students.
Yeah.
So you can't be punishing our people because you got a grouse. Sometimes I feel sorry for our people, but you see, they don't equip themselves. Trinidad, St. Augustine provides training in international relations, But how they send them? Well, you back the party.
Yeah.
And then they don't make sure they have a whole foreign affairs section in our government. As many as possible supposed to be sent there.
I agree.
You could even send them to the U.S. where they learn U.S. diplomacy. We have children born to Haitian parents, are born here and live in America. Encourage them to go and study that. Because the culture, they know the culture already. You hear about Jesse Jackson's story. And Trump got to add something negative. He's in no position to judge anybody. To judge anybody. And our people, something about Americans, I don't know. They have a way of, they don't want to examine anything. As much as they manage like Trump, it's America. America do what America want to do.
Yeah.
They don't understand you could do what you want to do, but not as long as you want to do. Whether you believe in a God or heaven, He rules. And you got example. He rules. You think because He say He love the Jews, He don't judge them? He has sent them into captivity 400 years for you, 70 years for that. They're not free to do as they like. And as long as they like. So the same thing in America. Once you got to let them know, hello, you were so and so, They want to have big celebration for the 250 years. We were not a part of it,
No, we were not.
When they say all men are created equal, well, we weren't men that time.
No, we were slaves.
You understand what I'm saying?
We didn't have souls. It's in the history books.
We weren't people.
Yeah, it's in the history books. It's in the history books.
But it's good to know the history.
Yeah.
And it good, and this happened. Another good friend, I like it. Where we were, we are not there today.
Yeah.
You see, because if you begin to say, with this and with that, it means over all the years, 1962 or whatever, people have improved. People have improved. Blacks, all of them have the same mentality. You talk about Jackson, you talk about the other one, Martin Luther King. You understand what I'm saying? And others. Some of them still alive today. We don't want anything to do with that. Oh, they do us this, they do us that. What have we done to ourselves?
Yeah, that is a question I asked Journey this morning.
Tell my good friend Johnny say, you know.
Yeah.
Because if he is to subscribe to that, it means that we're still as ignorant as we came up, the shape of Africa.
I agree, yeah.
That's not true.
That's not true.
Far from it. We could have been further. I mean, you know, many intellectuals, practical, you're an engineer, right?
Yeah.
We're not an engineer, we are none there. Our young people, nobody is an engineer.
Yeah.
Others have come. We have come a long way. Anybody got farther to go. And to assume that them being people, that is ridiculous. God has made of one flesh. That's why they could take organ from one and put in the other, blood, you know?
Yeah.
And we say all of these bias, that's how good to the biased person. But we got, look, you see our young people, that is why they're so. If you try to make them feel that they have gone no further than their parents, then you are deceiving yourself and them.
Yeah.
My parents, when none of them went to high school. In fact, my mother said she was born and raised in the village. The village was a new community, in case people don't know the village. Irish town and Newtown were pure slums and unhealthy. And the rest of the people live on the estate land, unhealthy. My mother said the first time her mother took her to school, which was the Bassett Girls' School, or the Anglican school. So she was shocked when her mother told Miss Bradley, Isa Bradley, she was the principal. And she's 10 years, she said 10. So I asked her, Mama, what you were doing before you went to school? She used to run errands for her family.
Yeah.
And she put in all the kind of effort she could to learn as much as she can. In fact, on Sundays, what we call Sunday school, in those days we they taught you to read from the Bible. She said her godmother, the Moravians, I call the Moravians, did the teaching as much as we discussed Christianity. She would pay the ladies. Her mother sent the girls to work in the cane field. My mother's mother had not worked in the cane field. They were market vendors. Most of the women in the village, or they did laundry for Portlands. She said she would, if she worked for a penny a week,
Yeah.
she would pay her godmother, whether they hate me or the penny, just to catch up on her work. The teacher to add or whatever.
Yeah.
And she learned enough to be a gang leader, because that women gang and men gang. Mm-hmm. Because she could read. She could, you have to keep a register of who work. Every morning they mark the register. My father wasn't sure what he knew, but I know he knew for sure. And my mother emphasized education. We move. Now, my sister Carol, she passed. She went to girls' high school, sponsored by the Martin Company and some of the workers there. I went to senior school in 61. And they gave us what I call senior primary. But it was high compared to what we had before. So we did some of the same subjects like the girls' high school, and the grammar school. And we did our best. I have brothers. I have 4 boys. And, she never carried me and my sister into the cane field. But before school every morning, when crop was on,
Yeah.
they had to go and help my mother collect. This is a stock meat. It really stuck, eh?
Yeah.
The cane tops. So she would make sure that they go with her early and help to make up her bundles and send them off to school, village school. She said one morning the overlooker came and saw her working with her boys. He said, Miss Berner, you can make more money if you send the boys them to work for themselves. So rather than collecting stock meat, with my mother. He looked at my brothers and felt that if she take them out of school and send them to do work in the camping, she'd be better off. My mother said, let me tell you something. None of my children coming in the camping behind me. And she stuck to it.
Yeah. That was the outlook of a lot of the parents back then, you know, that their children would not go through the things that they went through.
Right.
Yeah.
To suggest that we ain't a better off and all them stories. And look.
But who is suggesting
couldn't
that?
have-
Nobody is really suggesting that.
No, but when we're making the comparison, our leaders come a long way, you know. But they have a long, long way to go. And on their own, they're supposed to educate themselves. You got cell phone or you got laptop. They have courses they offer that they could do when you're going to go to a meeting. Even this thing with Dr. Joe doing, you could do it on the laptop.
You've said on numerous occasions that you watch C-SPAN, right? I would advise our leaders in the Caribbean to do more watching of C-SPAN and see how and see how the world runs, because you actually see everything on C-SPAN, you know.
And they ask questions, you know.
Yeah.
Why do you do so and so, or do so and so?
They need to watch things like C-SPAN. They need to look at things.
Even Bloomberg does the stock.
Yeah.
Right?
I sometimes wonder what our leaders do in their pastime.
They don't even read.
Yeah.
When they interview, I watch book thing on Saturday on the same system. They ask the senators, you know, what are you reading? They are expected to be readers. They don't have to be all history books, but they must be reading. So when they open their mouth, you know what they're talking? We're talking agriculture. How many of them studied it? I studied agriculture development and policy. And I did labor economics. I chose those two to deal with our country, right? And you come here, they can't see the benefit. Or you go teach. You understand what I'm telling you?
Yeah.
They don't even encourage our young people to progress themselves. The civil service full of graduates who, if they're properly utilized, could lift the country higher. But they want to pick, oh, well, she family's Pam. And they want modern, you learn a lot of modern things how to develop your country, you know. You go up to World Bank and you go to IMF. And you learn things, it gives you a better understanding.
Yeah. I wanna be able to take a commercial break anytime now.
Yeah, you know, so whenever I hear it, in Africa, we don't even know the places are. And as I said, Africa busy undermining us.
No, I would disagree with you on that, though, because yes, even though there are some who are that way inclined, there are many who are not that way inclined.
Yeah,
we should not all just we should not just lump all of them in one basket. That is true.
I agree
because
with you.
because they tend to
Miss
Henry, they tend to do the same with us. You know, they tend to say this is divide and conquer. They say, oh, Caribbean people ain't gonna want nothing to do with oil because oil sell them. They say to the black American, they say the Caribbean ain't want you. They say to us, they say to the black American.
Check on them, you know.
Yeah, so we
when
need to.
Our people when our people start to go to the U.S., they treated the blacks from the Caribbean better than they treated the locally born ones. Mm-hmm. They show them more acceptance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all a part
all right,
of
then I'll call back later.
Okay, yeah. So we'll take that bit of a commercial break and we'll be right back.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
Come, Build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers. We don't just sell materials, we help you build your dreams. Whether it's a new home, a renovation, or a DIY project, we're here to make it happen. That's why we say, build with us. From foundation to finish, come to our stores where we have the best in building materials, hardware, tools, paints, expert advice, and more. Whatever you need, you can count on us. So if you're ready to get started, build with us. With Hostels Building and Nevis Centers, you're not just building a structure, you're building a future. Let us help you create something amazing. Dream with us, plan with us, grow with us, build with us. Come build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers today. Build with us at Hostels.
It's the energy of we people, something pulsing inside. It beating every soul, a feeling we cannot It's hide. Always pushing us forward, the limit up in the sky. There's rhythm in how we flow, a rhythm that can't be denied. It's in the feeling in how we talk. It's in the meaning in our spot. It is the thing that sets us apart. Who we are, 'cause the rhythm of life keeps pumping.
Live fruitful. Look for us on the shelf with our new packaging. Enjoy 100% natural juice flavor. It's so fresh.
Live fruitful with Fruta.
And I'm back. The time 10:46, and a bit of an interesting chat there with Miss Henry. And yeah, we got to be very wary of this divide and conquer. You know, I often hear a lot of Caribbean people say, "Oh, those Americans, those Black Americans, those you know, Afro Americans, they ain't got no use for us," and vice versa. They say, "Oh, them Caribbean people ain't got no respect for us." And man, done with all that crap and just realize that we're one people and stop finding ways to divide ourselves to our own detriment. Hello, caller.
Yes, Quint. Now, Mrs. Henry asked the question, or she made a statement, where we were as to where we are today. Where we were before we were interrupted. Where we were before we were displaced. And Quint, I am fully aware of what we have done to ourselves and what we are doing to ourselves today. Now, there's a difference between being intelligent and being knowledgeable. Wisdom and knowledge of who we were before we were interrupted, Quint. What we have constructed before we were interrupted, Quint and Mrs. Henry. Do we know who destroyed what we constructed? Where we were before we were interrupted and displaced. Here we are in the diaspora of the Caribbean. Now, according to the history, it says that there were some of us who sold us, but there was an appetite by them. Yes, it cut both ways. Those who sold us benefited, but the appetite was from them. Because before we were interrupted, Quint and Mrs. Henry, we were striving within our space.
Those who sold us did not really benefit long term, you know. They benefited in the short term, but in the long term, you see what happened. They were in turn colonized.
Well, Quint, now let's go back to what you said earlier after my first comment about 10 and 5 become 15 and Every child today in school have a cell phone. Now, I've said before, in this era, with information at our fingertips, ignorance is a choice. But besides that, Quint, the distraction is there. So where are the kids today? They are caught up into TikTok, but they are not ascribing to what is for the future, where they benefit. Yes, Quint, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do within ourselves. And this is what Journey is saying. We cannot fix this problem by going external. We have to fix it within ourselves, but we are still divided.
Let me show you an example of a lot of young people. A lot of people are reaching. Sadly, a lot of people are reaching their teenage. Sadly, in this Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, where we say that we are 90-something% or 80-something% literate. A lot of people are growing up and they cannot really read properly. To me, to read properly is not just to see words and call them in a stumbling, fumbling manner. To me, to read properly is not only just to read word full speed without acknowledging your commas and full stops and question marks. You must be able to read clearly and pause when necessary. That to me is reading. But how many individuals, young parents now, are teaching their children to read? You would think that to teach your child to read, you have to maybe sit down with them in the book. And so there are different ways. You know how I learned to read? Why I got the big interest to read? My mother would go and work. Where she was down in the Virgin Islands, and she was working at one of those hotels as a what they call them, domestic servant or whatever. Now they call them what? Now they call them domestic engineers because they've sophisticated their language, right? But she would come from work, and no matter how tired she was, that's in the early stage. Or in the later she changed. But in the early, she would come from work, and no matter how tired she was, before we went to bed, she would either tell us a story, because remember, our foreparents, a lot of what we learned was by oral history. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So she would either tell us an Anansi story or some kind of fable or whatnot. But what really enticed me was when she would read stories from a book. And I remember the first few times that she would read these stories, right? And then she'd put down the book, and I would run to the book as a young boy. And I couldn't understand them. All I would see is this black and white, black marks on white paper. And I said to myself, wow, if my mother could get those kind of stories out of that book, I got to understand, so when she's gone, I could read those stories for myself. You understand? So so there are different ways to teach your children. Now we use the excuse, oh, everybody's working, everybody's too tired, I did the same with my children.
Yeah. Well, Quint, now let me just say, when I say that information is there at our fingertips. But here's the thing, Quint, let us look at this. We first that whenever we need to verify things, we first started with the dictionary. Then we went to the encyclopedia, and now we have the internet. And today we have technology, we have AI. So Quint, all of these forms of information, as the books and knowledge shall increase, it is man's mind that plays all of these things there. The dictionary, to the internet, to encyclopedia, to what we know in our present day, technology. Now, you want to research something, you go on the internet, Quint, because it is there that it's a form of making it easier for us to activate our brains. Now, this is the same brain that God gave us, but we rely on the internet now for information. Yes, it is a part of our reality. But the point I'm making is this, Quint. If we look at nature, and we are governed and we are in alignment with nature, the elements, Quint. Because, Quint, I'll tell you this. I am in my mid-50s right now, Quint. and I never stopped I wasn't taught that the earth is a living entity. This just hit me. It hit me like a fan in my face. And this when I start to be in coherence with earth, air, water, fire, spirit, and the SUN, the elements of life, Quint. Highly intelligent, yet loving elements. And then you're going to tell me that this book is the infallible word of God. When nature speaks to me, my ancestors were in harmony with nature. So to go back to the point that Mrs. Henry said, where we were as to where we are now. Where we were before we were interrupted, and by whom? Because let us look at their footprints. I am not harping on them. I am saying that while we claim that we are intelligent, we lack. We lack knowledge of who we were because we are cut off. We cut ourselves off.
I am saying, Journey, to strengthen your point, since we are lacking that knowledge of who we were. Sometimes when you're bringing your story, show us who we were and who we are and how we can evolve. That is what I'm saying.
Yes, Quint, and I heard you on that, but I'm saying the information is there because, you see, now, follow me on this, Quint. When I go on social media, on Facebook, there's a section that says you can subscribe to these things. Well, and yes, Facebook feed my algorithm because when I subscribe to ancient African history, there is where I get all the feed. And Quint, I have to also discern what is fact from what is fiction or what is real. So I cannot separate. When I make that connection, Quint, it's because of my thoughts, my mind. I've questioned things. And I don't question in rebellion. I am not challenging biblical faith because to believe by faith, for me, Quint, I rubbish that.
Well, How
can I believe without facts?
I have always questioned in rebellion. My questions have always been a form of rebellion because you come and you bring something to me and I'm questioning it in the first place and I'm wanting to disbelieve what you say, but at the same time I can't disbelieve it unless I verify or validate it or I can discredit it. So then I have to do research. But that came out of my own internal rebellion.
Well, Quint, that's why this morning I said, let us look at the world as it was, or as it is to be, as to what man told us the world's supposed to be. Because this is why Journey is saying, this is their world, and they put it in the scripture. This is their world, make no mistake of it. The Romans, the Vatican, the Church, this is their world that they have created. And that they have taken us away from the provision that nature provides for us. They created a world of economics and commerce, and that's the world we are in. So yes, they have taken us away from who we are supposed to be. We are here to be in harmony and to nurture nature. Is there any black philosopher, any black, those people that goes around and dig up graves and all that? Have you seen any black, the word is escaping me right now.
Archaeologists?
Right. Black archaeologists goes around digging up graves and all of that. And let us look at what...
There are, though, and that is why sometimes we can contradict because when their archaeologists dig up and they see something, they give it their spin. When our archaeologists, who have only been coming out in numbers a lot recently, dig up or research what they dug up and gave their spin, they give their interpretation to it. So that's how we hear the truth. For instance, look at the map. Look at the map of the world, and people don't realize that they turn Africa upside down, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They turn Africa upside down and they made Africa look so small and Asia look so big. That is a part of the lie and the hypocrisy that they have been giving us.
Yes, and Quint, not only that. Now, Mrs. Henry say that most of us, or young people, don't know of the 54 countries in Africa. Yes, that might be so because Africans that I engage with young Africans within the continent today, they don't know about the Caribbean either. They don't know. Most young people don't know. I mean, for me to bring it home, I would have to say, well, have you heard of Bob Marley? And they would say, yeah, well, Jamaica because of reggae. And I said, well, we are a group of islands in the Caribbean. But Quinn, let us look at the picture that was painted to us as we were growing up of Africa. That in itself, that we saw on television, they gave us a vision of what the continent was. So, in a way, they're telling us, well, you wouldn't want to go there. But then this is why here we are today. Because those who are speaking, those of our people who are in America, we want to say, I've been to America, I've been to Europe. But quickly, I just came across a post with the former president of Ghana receiving a statue of the Virgin Mary given to him by a cardinal, a white cardinal. And I look at it, right? I don't know what he's going to do with that statue, Quint. But let us look at what they say. You shall have no graven images. But yet our images, our graven images, are in the museum. And here, on social media, a cardinal presents a concrete statue of what's supposed to be the Virgin Mary to former president of Ghana.
Yeah, I want to take a bit of a commercial break right now.
I would cringe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's rather interesting, though. This is why I try my best to go over certain things and not stress on them too much, because the whole history of how they've taught us is a contradiction. If you really analyze it, you realize the things they say don't do are the very same things they do. So, let's take that bit of a commercial break.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Come, build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers. We don't just sell materials, we help you build your dreams. Whether it's a new home, a renovation, or a DIY project, we're here to make it happen. That's why we say, build with us. From foundation to finish, come to our stores where we have the best in building materials, hardware, tools, paints, expert advice, and more. Whatever you need, you can count on us. So if you're ready to get started, build with us. With Hostels Building and Nevis Centers, you're not just building a structure, you're building a future. Let us help you create something amazing. Dream with us, plan with us, grow with us, build with us. Come build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers today. Build with us at Hostels.
It's the energy of we people, something pulsing inside. It beating every soul, a feeling we cannot It's hide. Always pushing us forward, the limit up in the sky. There's rhythm in how we flow, a rhythm that can't be denied. It's in the feeling in how we talk. It's in the meaning in our spot. It is the thing that sets us apart. Who we are, 'cause the rhythm of life keeps bumping.
Back with you. The time 3 minutes moving away from the 11 o'clock hour. I'm going to play a clip for you, and it speaks to. This clip is mainly. I would like people, and especially our leaders, to understand that There are different ways to deal with a changing world.
What if the post-Cold War world order is not in crisis at all? What if it's finished? That is the striking conclusion coming from analysts at the European Council on Foreign Relations in their most recent piece published on the think tank's website. And this isn't some fringe commentary either, by the way. This is mainstream European strategic thinking. Their argument is very blunt. It is the liberal rules-based order, quote unquote, that defined global politics for nearly 3 decades that is no longer holding the system together. It is not wobbling, it is not temporarily weakened, it is structurally over. After the Cold War, the collective West, led by the United States, that emerged as an economic power after World War II, constructed a global architecture that is built on institutions, trade regimes, legal norms, and security guarantees. The assumption was rooted in expanding markets, in expanding alliances, and expanding rules. And the assumption was that stability would follow. Well, of course, Europe thrived in that environment. The European Union deepened integration, which led to the expansion of NATO that ceased to be a defensive alliance after the Warsaw Pact ended. So globalization accelerated and the system appeared durable. But now things have changed. Now, the European Council on Foreign Relations admits that the system no longer functions as a coherent whole. Well, why would that be, you would ask? Well, first, the United States itself is no longer acting as the guarantor of the entire order. Instead of underwriting a global framework, Washington increasingly pursues its own strategic interests through selective engagement, unilateral pressure, and hard power. The old bargain, where American security leadership was exchanged for European alignment, is less predictable than it once was. And in fact, it is impossible to know just how much longer it may last, as President Trump is laser focused on dismantling global institutions. Now, the second conclusion that I would like to draw your attention to, that is based on this article, is that China and Russia are not merely resisting Western dominance. They are offering alternative visions of international order. Beijing promotes sovereignty first principles, as it should. It promotes infrastructure connectivity and global South partnerships. Moscow advances a civilizational and more of a multipolar framework that explicitly challenges Western universalism. So China and Russia are not just countries, they are civilization states, unlike the United States of America. And so as a result of that, these models resonate beyond Eurasia. They appeal to countries that never fully bought into Western liberal norms in the first place. And so that, of course, is one of the areas that has become a building block for the BRICS nations. And then there are the so-called middle powers, countries like Turkey, India, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, that no longer see themselves as passive players in this Western-led system. That's because there is no Western-led system anymore. They mediate. They are becoming increasingly assertive in their regions. They build parallel networks of trade and infrastructure and security frameworks. They join new flexible coalitions. They don't operate ideologically. And so the result is fragmentation. The international system is no longer one integrated order. It is a competitive mosaic, if you will, of overlapping spheres, issue-based coalitions, and strategic balancing. So effectively it means trade here, security there, technology somewhere else. So different rules are applied to different domains. And here's where the ECFR argument that is described in this article becomes truly significant. They say that Europe cannot restore the old order. It is completely gone. Previously, the EU did everything in its power to convince itself and to convince those around it that the liberal architecture could ultimately be repaired. But now there they're saying, yes, it's gone, and we are aware of that. This isn't just a temporary disruption. It is a new geopolitical reality. The fragmentation is irreversible. The multipolarity is structural. The West is no longer the gravitational center of global politics. So what does Europe do? Well, the answer they propose is a degree of pragmatism, actually. Instead of trying to resurrect a universal liberal order, the European Union should accept that the world contains multiple political trajectories these days. And that means engaging in flexible sector-based coalitions, working with countries not because that they share ideology with the European Union or countries that are in Europe, but because they share specific interests. And so the recent India-EU free trade zone agreement is an example of that in practice. Trade partnerships with BRICS plus countries, climate cooperation where possible, development finance arrangements that compete with but don't necessarily exclude Chinese initiatives, security coordination when interests align. So this is a very different Europe that the ECFR is proposing. But there's also a deeper implication here, one that may be quite uncomfortable in Brussels, that's not described in this ECFR piece. If the liberal order is truly over as the structural foundation of global politics, then the long-term projects of Moscow and Beijing have effectively achieved their central objective. For several years now, at least several years, if not more, Russia and China argued that Western universalism was unsustainable, that it was short-lived, that multipolarity was inevitable, that sovereignty would reassert itself against liberal interventionism. And now European analysts themselves are acknowledging that the system cannot return to its previous form. That doesn't mean that Russia and China, quote unquote, win in every domain. It doesn't mean the West collapses all of a sudden, but it does mean that the ideological confidence of the 1990s and the early 2000s is gone. It's gone completely. Europe is now openly admitting that it is just one of many poles of power in the world. So now it will be interesting to see if Russia and China welcome Europe in this new paradigm, or if the EU and by extension Europe will first need to prove that its shift isn't just rhetorical, that it's not just effectively a Trojan horse. It will be really interesting to observe how the new dynamic will manifest itself in reality. The acknowledgement is that it's structurally over, it's not coming back. And so that recognition alone should, in theory, reshape policy debates, and it should force Europe to redefine its role and to re-engage with the world and specifically with Russia in a completely new format. Of course, it remains to be seen if it will do that or if it sticks to its old ways.
Now, when you listen to that analysis by that young individual, you might get a sense of, like, say, oh, okay, so the West is realizing that its back is against the wall and they're admitting that, hey, we've got to conform. Now, if you do that, that is the first big mistake that we tend to make, because it reminds us of when the Americans went into, well, before it became America, when the Europeans landed on Plymouth Rock and they discovered Indians there, and the Indians befriended them. And we know the history of what happens to the Indian. So we must always, moving forward as a people, be aware of the past history. What the Europeans do and what the West is trying to do right now is to make you and us drop our guard, to say, okay, we won. They have lost, and they now realize they have to come to the table. But we keep forgetting that whenever they come to the table, they always come to the table historically with an agenda. And the agenda is to get inside so that they can infiltrate, they can understand your plans, and then use it against you. While they're in there, they start whispering in each other's ear and whispering here and spreading sort of information that divides the whole thing, and then eventually they win. That is what they did with the American Indians. They went in, they made sure they divided them, they had the Sussex fighting against the Apaches and the this and the that, and they even gave them guns and ammunition to fight against one another. Instigate, get them to fight, and then watch them destroy one another. And when they are weak enough, then you come in again and you say, okay, we're going to sign treaties and we're going to promise you this and you promise you that. And then that's why you have the problem with Russia today. Because the agreement was you have NATO and there was Warsaw, and you went in and you say, oh, we want peace after the World War. We want peace, and we're not going to move any further. We're not going to encroach on your property. We're going to, and they make all the glossy promises. And this is why I often say when you look at history, you can see clearly we should never trust these people. I'm not saying don't do business with them, but do business with them in a way that you are always on guard, because whatever business they do with you, their intention is to undermine you and eventually win again, and then you find yourselves reevaluating and starting all over again. Yes, the West finds itself in a problem, but the West only seems to want to be admitting it has a problem because it itself now is suffering from the divide and conquer. It itself is now divided because the one that they lean towards, all of the colonial West lean towards the United States of America, big superpower. That's our big brother. That's our protector. The big brother became selfish, and the big brother decided, I'm looking after me. It's America first. And that is the only reason why they're rethinking their present position. Other than that, they would be forging ahead because they had the military might. They had the dollar, the US dollar is up there, everybody leans toward that, and all of their banking systems across the West made sure that no matter where you did business, it's the US dollar the main factor there, and in case of anything, all the banking you do there, legitimate banking, mind you, real honest business you do with them, and then what do? They concoct a story and they say, oh, you're corrupt, and they seize your monies in the various banks. And then they sit down and try to work within themselves to take your money that they stole from you, money that you got legitimately by real honest business. They sit among themselves and try to find ways to steal it from you so that they can use it against you, to cripple you. That is what they're trying to do with Russia, you know. You know how much billions of dollars they have for Russia in their banks? And they're skimming off the interest now and using that interest to help a part of Russia fight against itself. And the rest of the world is saying, the rest of the ignorant world is saying, oh, but if they want freedom, let them get freedom. If people have a right to get what they want. But it only applies when it is you're trying to divide your enemies. But when it's you now, it's a whole different story, you know. You must move in unison, but you must fragment your perceived enemy. And the rest of the world, we who as a black people come from colonialism and slavery and all that kind of stuff, who haven't even reached that level of acceptance by the rest of the world, we are the ones vouching for them and deciding democracy is so great. Oh, let them be free if they want to be free. But what about our freedom? You see what's happening to our freedom now? Have a candid conversation with our leaders and let them be truthfully, boldly honest with you, and let them tell you, which you know they're not going to do, because it seems as if one of the main things our Caribbean leaders have is the propensity to lean towards being dishonest. But if they were brutally honest, they would tell you, look, I honestly thought that we were a democracy. I honestly thought that we were sovereign. I honestly thought that we were free. But now I am getting the rude awakening that we really are not. So we as a people have got to awaken to the brutal, harsh reality of how do we survive in this evolving world. And I asked it when a particular individual made a statement that, hey, the world has changed. And my first question after that is, okay, so it has changed, so how do we survive? And we don't seem to be able to even now grasp the fact that our survival is the paramount thing. Our survival is supposed to be the most important thing. Stop studying about what other peoples are doing in their proximity. That place that is fighting against Russia is steeped in Russian history. It was a part of Russia. The West went in and divided them. So why is it that we're so concerned about everybody's wars and not what is coming to us? While we're sitting down and fighting and concerned about everybody's predicament and justice and rights and equality for everybody, they're digging us boldly in the eye and we don't even realize it. They're coming with the SSZs and their third-party people who they want to send to us. And we're sitting down and arguing about other people's freedom, right to freedom, and we don't understand that ours is threatened. And we don't seem to understand that that bit of comfort that we have is on the brink of being lost. And perhaps you never will, but as long as we don't, I can assure you that sometime in the future, we'll be in a position and we'll be saying, if I should have, I could have. You know the song? You look back and you say, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. Well, we're right on the threshold where we need to do and not contemplate after the fact, in the future, what we should have done. Okay? Now I'm going to play a clip, and this speaks to when I was speaking to Sylvine earlier, and I spoke about, we spoke, both myself and her were speaking about being cognizant of the evolution of how we came from then until now. And I specifically said, I don't know if it was her to Africa, to Journey, that is, that Africa, the map has been turned upside down. It's quite strange how we go to our colleges and we learn, and we just take what we learn and then come out and try to regurgitate it without analysis. I'll tell you this, no matter where I learn and what I learn, I always take what I am being taught with a level of skepticism. Do not take what you're being taught on just the merit of how it is being taught. Because what we're taught is taught to us with an agenda in mind. So having said that, I'm going to play two clips. This is the first one. And I want you to listen because this goes back to a part of the beginning of the lies or lies that they started to tell us about how we are where we are, apart from those who came before Columbus.
I have dealt in AHSA a long time with this connection, the African Native American connection, and the time has come. We have arrived at recognizing that connection. And of course, it's an autobiographical trip because one wants to be what one is, and one wants to know what that is. But then when we listen to James and John and Dr. Ben and all this unveiling of knowledge that we all came from Africa, then you begin to deal with how did we come from Africa? You know, in reality, how did we get here? Not just on the slave ship, okay? And let me just, I usually have a map, but all of you put the map of the world in your mind. You got that? You got the map of the world in your mind. And we are here in the United States. We are here in the Western Hemisphere. And as we move into 1992, we have been told that Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and the definitive analysis of the peopling of this hemisphere is to justify that lie, that Columbus or Leif Erikson or some European discovered this land, okay? And we think that we're Afrocentric, and we think we're not walking around with assumptions. But the basic assumption for the peopling of the world is that humanity starts in the interlocustrine region, that area around the Old Divide Gorge and the equator, right in the center of Africa, at the beginning of the Nile, right? And then you come down the Nile, because of course you know the Nile flows up, or if you put the map correctly and put Africa where it should be on the top of the world, then the Nile would flow down. But because you're looking at a European world, they put Europe with this little small appendage of Asia in some kind of dominant spot, and we begin to think that Europe is really above Africa. But if you get out in space, you will discover it's hard to find Europe, and Africa is a monstrous place, right? Because we are taught to look at the world as if north is above us, but the oldest and longest and most dominant river in the world begins in the center, begins at the equator, and flows down, down, down to Europe. That's the reality. Isn't that the reality? You can't swim against the current, and it's the longest river in the world. It's 4,000 miles long. But if you go the other way, as Cato will tell you, there is a waterway that will take you all the way down to South Africa. But they don't want you to know this great waterway exists. Now, humanity starts their little black pygmoid, excuse the expression, but I want to give you a visualization, pygmoid, little black pygmoid, small people with strong black bodies, nappy hair, steatopisia butts, because the critical question is how did white people lose their behind? But we won't do that tonight. I've asked John, he's working on it. If you see the ancient god of Vietnamese, he's black. The ancient god of the Indians, Vishnu, is black. The ancient god of Hawaiians, he's black. The ancient god of Chinese Buddha is black. Let's start with the prototype human being. It's a small, black, tropical person on the equator. Comes down the Nile and turns into a tall, brown-skinned person with maybe sharp features, and the hair's getting a little different, right? And then migrates out, goes to Europe, spends 100,000 years in the ice, loses its pigmentation, the curl in its hair, its butt, etc., right? Mixes, goes over to Asia, creates half the people in the world. They're all yellow with slanted eyes, straight hair, buttless totally, come across the Siberian, Bering Strait, listen to me, turn into little fat round Inuits, what we call Eskimos, with an extra layer of fat, right? That's the progression. Comes in waves of 30 people at a time. And by the time Columbus gets over here, he discovers, or it discovers him, 210 million people over here that have come and populated this place in bands of 30 people. That's what they tell you. You look at any map of migration, you look at any first course in anthropology, and they will tell you that's how they people this hemisphere. Now, let's check this out in the reality and the assumption. They not only came here as little Eskimos, little fat people, but then they started migrating south, right? So then they changed into brown people. They changed their phenotype, and then they change into tall people, and then by the time they get to the equator, they are now back to little, short, pygmoid, nappy-haired, strong Africans. They not only change phenotype on a trip down, but culture. Do you believe 210 million people were here in 1492? Do you believe that 12.5 million people were here in what is called the United States? No, because somebody told you there was a vast wasteland. They tell us so many lies. Now, what you do is begin to take the church's records and look at how many Native Americans they wiped out. Because, you know, the church, which was busy trying to change us, kept a very definitive record of how successful they were at massacring the indigenous people here. Verrazano, in his diary, very carefully documented the phenotypes of the people here from Central America up through Nova Scotia, where my father's people come from the Ethiopian-looking people in Florida to the light Eskimo-type people in Nova Scotia. So we know what the people look like here.
And that is relevant because as we stand in our proximity now in the Caribbean and we ask ourselves questions as to why is it that not only here in the Caribbean where we are predominantly black, in the US of A where the black population is about 20% or thereabout, and on the motherland Africa where the population is again predominantly black. Why is it that we are trying to move away from our blackness? The answer lies in that kind of a teaching. So for us to understand and to come from where we were to where we are and move forward as a people, we've got to start to dissect what we have been taught. And it is amazing that anywhere around the world you go, in the Western world, they speak about their history. It is taught in their schools. But in our proximity, all of those colonized peoples, including myself, we don't have our history. Why? And why is it all of a sudden in the United States of America they're going on a vendetta to destroy the history that is there, that is obvious, that relates to blacks? Why is it that when it comes to black, they only designate 1 month, Black History Month? And then you're supposed to cram all of the information you can into 1 month and forget about it for the next 11 months. Don't we see that we have been taught into passivity? We've been taught to hate ourselves. We've been taught to love our rapers, our murderers, our prosecutors. Now ask yourself psychologically what state of mind a people are in when all that they look at as a representation of moving forward as a people relies on the people who oppressed us. Hello, caller.
Greetings.
Hello. Greetings.
Blessed love. Just from joining in the
Yeah, you sound muffled. Clear up your phone.
Sound better?
Yeah, better. Yeah.
Yes, give thanks.
Give thanks.
Yeah, man, just joining the reason. It's Black African History Month still. Rasta History Month still. You know what I mean? Yeah, listening to some of the clips them where they play, especially the one before this last one where they just play. You know?
Yeah.
And like I always say, you know, you put to those before us, you know, you show your life or death. See? No, we got to colonialism through the slavery, you know, and that is like death to us, see? And it opened another door, which is Rastafari, see? This is what he gives us now, you know, to take us ahead of the game, see? But we ain't sighting it up, right? We still thinking we can get ahead, going the colonial way. We can show you that use the tail in this colonial world, the black man is the slave. See, that's the role they give to us. Understand? So it's because who we are the woolly-head people, you know. It tells you in the Bible that the ancients of days, God, the Almighty God, has hair like pure wool. Pure wool. Well, we are the only people with hair like wool and the earth. You know what I mean? So that there maybe is a reason why they give us this kind of struggle, eh?
But let me ask you this, because I remember years ago when before I left WinFM, and I consider myself back at WinFM this time, because I left WinFM already, and then I came back, and then I left during the time of COVID, and now I'm back again. Okay? But during one of my stints here, a colleague here asked me the question. That is the question that a lot of young people ask. If it is that we are great, or we were great, and we came from kings, how is it that we find ourselves in the position that we are in today, and all of the development and everything is coming from those who we say we were better than? How do you answer that question?
Well, I say ignorance, you know. Just say people suffer for lack of knowledge. You know what I mean? So we don't know why we're saying that, you know, we are great. Well, I just show you, say, well, a lot of us read the Bible, you know. We come from God. So we can't remember, you know,
But caller, that is why I just asked you the question, because you're remember what I said. I said the person asks, if we came from God, you're going back there. Yes, we were gods. But if we came from gods, why are we in the position we are today? I admit and I agree it is ignorant.
We move away from that God state, right? We move away from the God state, like I said, through ignorance, you know, lack of knowledge.
But don't you think, but caller, don't you think that rather than giving such a cropped answer, a synopsis, minimized answer, don't you think that that is why people remain ignorant? Because if people ask a question like that, if my child asks a question like that, and I'm going to say, well, it's because you're ignorant, because the Bible said that we came from kings, what have I taught him really?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, what I'm suggesting is, and I know Rastafari to a considerable extent does that, because when I was growing up, Rastafari was teaching of the ancient wisdom and knowledge and kingdoms. I know that, okay? But what I'm saying is, not only Rastafari must do that, and even if one isn't Rastafari, one should be aware of their history enough so that when a person asks that question, they can say, well, let me tell you, that is an answer that I can't give you one time. But if you have the time, now and again when you have the time, I'll give you bits and pieces. And even between the times when I give you bits and pieces, I will give you information that you can go and research for yourself, so that every time I give you a bit and a piece and you go and you come back, you not only have the bit and piece that I gave you, but you have added to it also from the information that you garnered on your own. Don't you think that we should be doing that?
There's a good idea too, you know. But also, you know, I mean, what I'm saying, right? What I'm saying is this, right? You know, we, on a political level, Caribbean, people who came out of slavery, you know, we don't have a direction. We don't have an aim, as far as I can see. You know what I mean? I don't see us moving like we got no aim.
But
Caller, we had an aim.
Caller, I hear you, but again, I keep trying to direct you back to how do we get the aim? We don't have an aim. Our young people, you look and you see they're lost. A lot of them want answers, you know. But the sad thing is no one is there. The grown-ups, we would rather to curse them, even though sometimes, yes, I get hard on them, but you have to be hard on them. You have to say, man, pull your pants up. Pull your pants up and walk like a man. But having said that, I'm not going to just tell them, pull your pants up and walk like a man. I'm going to also say, look, you are great. You have the potential to be anything. Do not limit yourself. Do not undermine and underestimate your own potential. How many of us are telling our children that, our young people that?
Yeah, sequence commercial, right? Now, this is African History Month, right? Now, I was telling you, God gave us Rastafari to move ahead. See? We minimize what Rastafari is. We don't pay Rastafari in the mind. We say, well, put it on corner and call it religion. But over the years, it has proven to be more than a religious or just a black liberation movement. See, Rasta is a movement we're connecting with every race of people. Right? We deal with a certain level of morality and righteousness because it's all about the dignity of the human being. Now, what I'm saying, they enslave us, and that's in this kind of box. You know, we look into some greater power. Because our politics, you know, it teaches you to look to a man to come help you. See? And these men are supposed to be the wealthy people. See? And we look into these people. That's what the whole system is all about. So today we look to the West, America, Europe. Tomorrow we look to China and Russia.
Yeah.
And we're going to look to ourselves.
I hear you.
When are we going to look to ourselves? So these are the things the Rastafari force us to do. Look to yourself. Because you're in him, you know, Rastafari. You're talking about yourself. When you say Selassie, are you're talking about? I mean you, you know. I mean, you know what I mean? Because when you say you ain't talking about nobody outside of yourself.
Yeah.
You see? So this the whole mystical view of Rastafari. That I say it's not it's a civilization that come to replace Babylon. You see, if that time coming, you know. Because you see the thing is, you know, Queen, we outgoing the system, you know. See, they met the system and we outgoing it. So that is why it's so much a problem.
You're right. You're right with that. You're right with that. We are outgrowing it because we are becoming increasingly more knowledgeable. So you're right. Yeah.
We're making the likeness and the image of the Most High, which means you like unto God, you know. So you're going into that stage there. You know what I mean? So these kind of things can like hold you. You understand? You're going to transcend all of them things there. So I'm trying to show you know the thing that where like the frame where fit that kind of mindset is what we say Rastafari is. See, because it is you coming into yourself. You know what I mean? You knowing that, you know, the laws of nature, where if you violate them, it's like you're mashing up yourself because you show you like, so what you say you're weak. That's a law of nature that would call it cause and effect.
Yeah.
You see, these are natural. You can't go around these things, yeah. So the more we, and when I say we ignorant of these kind of teachings. They're not ignorant in the sense that you don't know nothing. We know how to pass subjects and get qualification and go look a job, right?
Yeah.
We know these things, you see?
Yeah.
But how does that prepare us for when them things they take away?
That's
like in
true.
COVID, when all them things they take, how could we survive?
Yeah, that's a key point there. Yeah, I agree with you. Yes.
You understand? So that is why His Majesty, that's why we say His Majesty is God. He come and set this example before us, you know, and He speak on everything we're going to need to know. So we now have to take time now and search out what His Majesty said. Because you can't have a man walking at the earth named the King of Kings, all of flags, conquering lion of tribe of Judah. And all the kings of the earth have to respect that. That's how they address Him. saying the president of America, all of them, they had to adjust the king like that. You understand? And in the Bible, tell you that this was God. So it's like, you have to look to what he say, you know, during the political go round in the earth. What were the things His Majesty were talking about? You think I had just all of these organizations?
But let me ask you this, because that is one of the bones of contention, and that is one of the things where I kind of start to lean away from you. But even though I lean away from you to some extent, I don't want to lean away to the point where it becomes a divide. Because
you have to stand on your own to foot still in a queen. You're not need to lean away. You have to stand on your own to foot. Every man has to stand on their own.
That's what I'm saying, and this is why we need to have these kind of a debate. So here's what I'm saying. Why is it that it must be, or let me ask you this, must it be that I must conform to every aspect of your belief for us to move together in unity, or...
No.
Okay. Okay, because in saying no, then it means that we can move together in unity, but we may have disagreements here and there on certain things, but when it comes to the positive things that we need to develop as a people, we'll move forward on that. I say that because I respect you, I know you, I look around, I see the Rasta, you see my hair, people call me Rasta, even though I don't adhere to the Rastafari religion, but I respect your religion. Where I lean away from you is where you say that the God is Selassie. That's where I lean away from you. But it doesn't mean...
It's okay, Queen. Queen is okay. But they don't have no problem. You know what I mean? But every man have a right. But every man have a right to choose. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But that's what I'm saying. And it's good to hear the young people. This is why I leaned away from you, because it's good to let young people hear. Here you are, a Rasta who believes in Rastafari. And here I am.
No, we don't believe in come on Rastafari. We know.
That's Rastafari. What I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Right? So, but I'm saying here I am, also a belief to a considerable extent in the Rasta faith in terms of living and livity, but I don't adhere to the Godhead part of it, but that doesn't mean that we have to be enemies. And this is yes, and this is what our young people need to understand, because they tend to feel that because when they see you and I together, if they see you and I together, and then they hear us have this debate, and I say, but you know, I differ when it comes to the Selassie as a God. They say, oh, look at that. But we must let them know, no, we're still brethren. We're not divided, you know. Okay.
Of course.
Okay. I just wanted to make that clear.
You can't reason going one side, you know, like everybody just agreeing on the same thing. No, man, that's not real.
And that's...
Everybody must got a different views. So I mean, like if everybody thinking wrong, nobody they gonna right.
You understand? Yeah.
So you have to keep it real, man. And now I'm trying to show you what Rastafari is.
Yes.
Is it real? We coming again to reconnect with creation, you know, and live according to the laws of creation, not according to the laws of Babylon.
Yes.
Because the other day, you know, I listen traffic talk, right? And we respect the police and what the work they do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't have a problem. But I'm just showing you, like, when they were speaking, right, it give you an idea how Babylon set the system. Now, all the laws that Babylon make, if you take away your rights, to deny you of your rights and your freedom as a creature created by God, check out all the laws, them.
Well,
the laws, they must be just, right? The laws, they must be just according to His Majesty, right? And geared towards the protection of your rights, of the rights of the people. So if you have laws where, okay, and this society will live full of them kind of laws. For example, law number one, like the one with the herb. And up to now, you can't get a good law coming from the government concerned, even though some go for winning case.
Yeah, because our leaders in the Caribbean and mainly black leaders around the world still lean towards the master telling them what to do.
Guys, the master system, the inner, but they don't come and tell you the inner, the master system. That's what I tell you, right? We have to create we own thing.
Yeah, we have to.
And the thing is, what I'm saying, there's something done created which is Rastafari, because Rastafari, right, is the old fall. That don't stop Rastafari, you know that? Rastafari keep going out and Kobe gone and Rastafari still keep going here, you know that?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying that there is a system which is the Rastafari way to chat, and it's not a religion, it is a consciousness. See, Rastafari is a consciousness. It's not no religion. You see? Because it's all about you taking control and responsibility for yourself, you know. You becoming your own big man. You becoming that. You understand? When I say a big man, I mean a responsible person. You know?
Yes, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I hear
so
you.
it's the whole essence of Rastafari. See? Yeah, you can't just sit down and because Britain big. If you check out with His Majesty and when Italy invaded, right? Italy was one of the most powerful army at them time, the Ethiopian weapons, you see? And when His Majesty said, well, not because you're big like the mountain, you go to the League of Nations, all of them are members and the League decide, well, they're not going to get involved, they rather let Mussolini do it thing, you know what I mean? Yeah, this is what His Majesty tell them, if you say you're going to go, right? Then it's judgment, you check? Because what you say you read today is me, it's tomorrow, you tell them what tomorrow is you, you know. You say what you
But that is one of the
main... in Africa, it's going to burn down Europe.
Yeah,
and after that violation, World War II broke out.
But
and you know, World War II was about the destruction of Europe, Hitler, and them.
Yeah, but this is one of the reasons why I don't adhere to that aspect of your religion, because if you look back in history and you look at Jesus Christ, it's the same. If you look at Buddha, it's the same. If you look at Allah, these were prophets that men decided were gods, and then they made them gods. So this is why I lean away from all of that. My thing is, I don't know who the creator is, right? I think I can definitely say I know the creator isn't any one of those people that you named out. Whether it's whether it's Selassie, whether it's Jesus Christ, whether it's Allah, whether it's Buddha, I don't believe the creator is any one of them. Mind you, it could be a manifestation of the creator to some extent, because I do believe that within all of us is a divine aspect. But for anyone to say, well, Quint is a god, no, I don't lean there.
Well, listen me out, Queen. Listen me out, right? No. Mankind, part of man evolution, is his godhood, you know. That it's not just adulthood and you stop, you know. That's where you stop in the system. But you have, that is why you got that desire to know that spiritual side of you. Because that is the side they never teach you nothing about.
But that is what I just said.
So when I say like Selassie is God, you say, well, how a man can be God? But you know, in the Bible, it tell you man is a temple. See, the power of God is Christ, which is a set of principles. So a man living by a certain set of principles show that he know himself to be God. That is why he lived by these. The Bible is a mystic book. I love the Bible, I could understand what the Bible actually, the message you convey, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's the reconstruction of the man who God created in, according to the book, in the Garden of Eden. So the original man you deal with, you understand?
But if we were to take that to a wider level, it can cause confusion, because to a certain extent, that is what I said. I said, if you say to me that within Selassie, within Jesus Christ, within Allah, Buddha, Krishna, whoever, that there is a certain level of divinity or godhood in those individuals, I will not deny that, because I believe that exists in all of us. But for you to go, but for you to go beyond that and say not that the individual has a level of divinity, but to say that that individual is God, I don't lean there. And hear this. This is why we don't want to You see where we were going with the conversation? This is why sometimes I don't get bogged down with the Christianity and so forth, because it bogs us down and keep us down a narrow path of who God is and this and that. And there's a question we'll never be able to answer. Whereas the world is changing around us, they're trying to put us back into slavery, and we are going to follow down a path and be arguing about who God is and who God isn't.
You hear me now? Hear me now, Quinn. Like you say, well, all of us have this divine faculty within us, right?
Yes, yes.
But how much of us make use of it?
That is the question.
That's good, and it's a reason why not too many of us take it on, right? And the only way we can refer to it is in the sense of a religion, right?
Yes.
No. That is why I say, like, man's final evolution is God's self when you use the faculty, because you're going situation going to arise, a man going to see that only God could help him. Check it out. So he have to go find God wherever God is. You know what I mean? So I'm saying is like, it tell you, because use God, you know, use God. You ain't God for nobody, use God for yourself, because you have to build yourself. See? You have to build yourself, you have to look over your king judge. You know what I mean? So it's like, until they come to age to realize these things, yeah, but these things where they never teach you about.
Yeah.
See? So we have to know all about these things. And so when we think, well, God is not far away. He's just keeping a certain set of principles. It's just like, you see, when you was a youth and like you ain't with puberty, like you know, I mean, you can't get a girl pregnant, right?
Yes.
No, at them time you couldn't have been a father. So talking about father business come like an illusion to you, right? Until you reach to that stage where that they can happen. It's the same here, you know. But you have evolved.
But here this too. But here this too. I'm glad you use that as a reference. I think one of the mistakes that we make is that we wait until we become fathers and mothers to understand.
I like how you're saying that right there.
Yeah, to understand the seriousness of motherhood and fatherhood. Long before I got a child, I looked at the world around me, looked at my own life, and analyzed what kind of father would I be when I become a parent.
So you see now, so the knowledge you're seeking like prerequisite knowledge before you actually reach there.
That's
knowledge.
That's it.
So the same thing with the God now, you know. That's why we have to entertain these reasonings when it comes to the God, because when you come into the God state now, because you'll reach there, you know. See? Because that's how the thing have to play out. You have to reach there whether by your own will and determination, you say, well, me want to come there, I will make situation, make you get there, you know what I mean? But it's a thing where you will realize in you, right, that mankind is much more than the system make mankind believe it is. That's why one time I tell you about the movie named Lucy, right?
Yeah.
See, Lucy was using she got faculty. You can open right up, you open the past faculty in her brain. You know what I mean? And there was nothing impossible to her. See? He tell you in the Bible, right? With God, there's nothing impossible. So it's like when you come into the God state, right? Nothing going to be impossible. See, the system is what keeping us down, you know, because we're living according to the system, and the system, and we feel we can't rise no higher because the system set that at the level.
That's true.
No.
That's
we
true.
didn't make the system.
But hear this, and it strengthens the point that I am 66 years old, right? And when I say to people that at 66 years
middle age, you're just middle age, sometimes you say old, that's middle age.
Well, I consider it old. Anyway, when I say to people at my age, the last time I went to a doctor was when I was a child, you know, when my parenting me. I think since I've become a grown man, I've only been to a doctor when I think at one point when it was red eye. And you know, that's a trivial thing. I just wanted time from work because, you know, it made you feel uncomfortable. And because I make that statement, people say, oh, well, you need to go to a doctor because you don't know what you're going through and this and that. But here's what they miss. Your body speaks to you, you know. And because your body speaks to you, the question is, are you listening to your body? When your body speaks to you, Have you been listening to your body and following your body from the time you be conscious of yourself, aware of yourself to the extent that when your body speaks to you, you know how to answer what the body is saying to you? No. Majority of people don't. So because they don't, then they run here and they run there for all kind of medication that have all kind of side effects. Mind you, I'm not saying you don't go to a doctor, because people go to doctors, and doctors are relevant for so many different things. You have a internal growth, you have different things, you have a broken part, whatever. But what I'm saying is to strengthen the point that you made. Within us is that divinity that nothing is impossible. We've lost most of it, but we still have enough of it that there are certain things that we can do, but we tell ourselves in our minds we can't do them.
I ask you something, Ashok man. Everything is just me, the principle and in the Bible. It's just principle that man need to live by, you know. See? Because it let you know, I say, well, if you live in a certain way, right, then a certain set of things gonna follow you.
Yeah.
If you live in another way, another set of things gonna follow you. So it's your principle, you keep it, right? And then they have to be like
sometimes
life, you know?
Sometimes even me myself question, because that's what you do again. Do you question yourself? This is another thing. This is another thing that we don't do. We just feel we can just go through the world and knock our heads in. No, you have to evaluate yourself, whether it is one time a day, 2 times a day. At the end of the day, you have to question yourself. So sometimes I ask myself, how is it that at this stage I don't have to go to doctors to get medication and whatnot, but I'm not sick. I don't go to sleep and have all kind of ailments and pains and this and that. I've had cuts and bruises and whatnot, and they heal just like that without any form of medication and so. So I ask myself, and sometimes to give myself answers, I say things like what you just said. Perhaps it's the way I've lived. You understand? For instance, when I tell someone I've never eaten pizza and I don't have an intention to eat pizza, I don't eat certain fast foods, I eat very kind of weird, you know. So again, it's how you live. You know, you can't live a certain way and then expect that your body is going to be in a good stage when you are yourself abusing that body.
See?
Yeah.
You work with creation, if you like now, so the man tell you the Lenten time, right? The Lenten time.
Yeah.
The time of fast. You know what I mean? So like up in Ethiopia, it's all 55 days of fasting.
Wow.
During the season. And you know, it'll be like 40 days of fasting. See? Which in all of these things is like habits we need to include in our life. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm telling you, I'm not going to go through any days of. I eat mainly, perhaps you could say, 1 meal a day, but I can't remember ever having gone through. Huh?
That's it. That's how we go. Like you're eating 1 meal every 24 hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you do that, you keep it up for 40 days. You know what I mean?
Okay, I understand that then. Yeah. Okay, I hear you on that. Yeah, well, it has been a good thing, and it's always good to know that you're listening and you can, you know.
I'm listening.
Well, that's good, because when you do interact, you know, it makes me feel good that we can have this bit of a rapport. So thanks again. Yes, ma'am. And that's how we're going to come to an end. It's 1 minute past 12 o'clock, so we're going to go to the midday news, the headline news. And as always, it is a pleasure. And what I do when I get here is try to disseminate to you a little of what I've learned, because I feel it is a waste of time and humanity to have learned a few things. There's a lot I don't know. When I look at the very things I peruse, I realize that I haven't even begun to scratch a bit of the surface, but in what I do know, I want to disseminate it to you if you are open to it. If you feel that you can take something from it and apply it to your life and it makes your life a little better, then that is my intent to be here. I come with no malicious intentions, whether political or otherwise. I lean not to any particular party. My philosophy is when you have a government, you try your best to work with that government. So whether I was more in favor of PAM or Labour or whatever, whether I was more in favor of Labour winning when Labour has won, I'm going to try my best to defend Labour. But I'm not going to let Labour go without questioning Labour. You understand? And this is one of the things that we do. We feel because we support a party or, that they're supposed to run shod. No. I support you, but if there's a question I don't like, I'm going to ask you. And when you don't answer it, then I have a better understanding of who you are and your character, because the fact that you have become arrogant and rather than have a rational conversation, you rather to get puffed up and argue, and then I know who you are. And within my mind, I don't need to do any great analysis. I know that you're not the kind of leader I need. So it's as simple as that. So until we meet again tomorrow, the Almighty Creator sparing our lives, do take care and have a great day. Not only just a great day, but a great life.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that